So, what is Rimworld? Rimworld calls itself a colony simulator, and that's basically what it is. It's like a mature yet cutely drawn Sims game with some pretty dark elements. The goal is to survive and thrive as a colony, so this game doesn't focus on individual colonists, or pawns as they're called, as much as it focuses on the colony as a whole. It's a game that wants to engage the player with stories, and these stories are being created by 3 different storytellers, which can influence your colony quite heavily. So that's the short of it. Let's continue on and explore the rest of Rimworld. Graphics. Graphically, there isn't much to it than what you see at face value. Rimworld looks similar to Prison Architect with its quirky yet cute art style. There are no animations of any sort, just pawns, animals and others moving fluidly across the screen without legs. Now, that should actually look pretty weird in any other game, but Rimworld pulls it off nicely. Because of its style, the game features colorful textures and still features some surprising depth and detail to small things despite its fairly simple art style. So, what does it offer? As mentioned earlier, at the start of the game you get the option to select a certain storyteller. Now these storytellers are responsible for the flow of the events happening in the game. For instance, you get Phoebe Chillax, which is like the casual base building type of storyteller that gives you ample time to build up a colony with occasional danger thrown at you for good measure. This danger can be very serious or very insignificant, depending on the actual difficulty level you start with and how long your colony has been surviving. Usually, the longer you play with any storyteller, the game gradually becomes harder in terms of challenge. Next to Phoebe, you can also pick Cassandra and Randy Random. Cassandra has a more gradual difficulty curve in terms of progress, and Randy is, much like the name implies, random. What these storytellers actually do in terms of gameplay is trigger events from time to time. Say you just start out for a few days and suddenly your grown crops get hit with blight, which instantly kills them off and often causes trouble when it comes to keeping everyone well fed within the colony. Or you might get something that might at first sight be pretty innocent, like a new colonist looking for a roof over his head. You might not immediately notice, however, that this newly added colonist is in fact a closet pyromaniac that likes to set things on fire. Or this new person could absolutely hate men and women and could also be a cannibal to boot. Naturally, having a new companion like that in an established colony could provide some very interesting situations. This new person would probably not get along with other colonists, so he could cause all kinds of trouble and could get into fights constantly. You see, you don't really get to interact in depth with a lot of colonists, like you can give them basic tasks such as hauling, mining or cleaning, but you can't prevent them from having conversations when they're close by, aside from actually designating areas for them to go. So what this does is create some very unexpected situations from time to time that are beyond your control. And it's these types of situations that make Rimworld unpredictable, and it's this unpredictability that makes the game fun and keeps you coming back for more. With the eventual goal of doing whatever the hell you want, honestly. There's no set goals. Some players survive for many years in-game, while others try to create a fully functional organ harvest facility. Yeah, that's right, you can harvest organs if you want. So for instance, you can capture raiders and then imprison them and then harvest every organ out of them to use by your own colonists. You can cut off their limbs in an attempt to prevent them from escaping. You can even force colonists to use things like smoke leaf and yayo, which can increase their effectiveness for the small trade-off of, the risk of being addicted. And having an addicted colony member carries its own risks, with the severity of the addiction depending on the type of drugs they've used. Either way, plenty of things can go wrong, and they can go wrong fast, which really requires some thinking ahead in some cases to prevent serious disaster from happening. The amount of possibilities is really staggering and keeps the game fresh and fun to play. And because of its storytellers and difficulty, the game is highly customizable to get the right challenge you want without going overboard. And speaking of challenge, the game also has a very in-depth combat system which allows you to use cover and designate colonists to defend certain spots. I must admit, this game can toy with your feelings though. If you've been playing for a colony for a while and you get attached to certain colonists and they end up hurt in a fight or die, it can cause the story to take a dark turn for the worse. But it's all in good fun because that's the whole point of the game, to create stories and engage the player on an emotional level. And I think it works. Overall score. Cute art style. Surprising depth. Each colonist might as well be a real person with their own set of strengths and weaknesses. Replayability. Each game and storyteller feel different in some way, keeping things fresh. Great music. Fantastic western-ish style of music, with Barnstar probably being my favorite song. Atmosphere. Great sci-fi western type of atmosphere, especially together with the music. Some events are cheap. Sometimes you get some below-the-belt event that can really screw you over and doesn't feel fair to combat. Closing words. I was fairly skeptic when I first bought it, thinking it was a bit pricey for yet another early access game, but after playing for a few hours the game got to me and started to become quite addicting. In fact, once you're deeply involved with your colony, the hours fly by so fast it's actually rather ridiculous. It's like a great combination of Sims gameplay packed in a survival environment with a strong sense of progression and emotional investment. So for me, personally, this game hits just the right notes. Is it worth it? Despite €28 being fairly steep for an early access game, I do feel this game is worth it in terms of content and longevity, if you're into this type of game. So if you're in any way intrigued by what you're seeing here, I would say get this game. I'm pretty sure you won't regret it. My name is SirDutchie, thanks a lot for watching, and I wish you, as usual, a fantastic day.